Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wednesday Call Live! Filmed in front of a live studio audience in beautiful Burlington, North Carolina. Please welcome today's special guest host, Stephen Davey!
Oh, louder. Oh, man. I love having Terry Edwards here. You know, just like instantly feel better about myself. Do you struggle with low self-esteem? Do you worry that others think poorly of you? Ask your doctor if Terry Edwards might be right for you. That reminds me. There are a few moments in every 5 minutes of my life that I'm glad people can't see what I'm thinking. Oh, Stephen Davis, so glad to be here. Andy's out on the road serving the team, tirelessly serving the team. You know, I don't know about you, but I wake up every day thankful that we've got a leader that still goes out and serves. You know what I'm saying? He don't have to. But he goes out and serves. If you're anywhere near these locations, Lakeland, Florida, it's going to be out of control. That's tonight. If I'm in the state of Florida or a state connected to the state of Florida, I would think about getting there tonight. That's right. And then Atlanta, Georgia tomorrow. Hey, make it a twofer. You can drive in between. You sure can. That's what I used to have to do before I could fly between. I'd drive between. Why? Because I wanted to be there and watch how Andy does what Andy does. I wanted to learn. Does that make sense? Because once you get the skill, well, then you got the skill. Does that make sense? Right. And every time I go see Andy, I get better at what it is we do. So I would get to both locations. I mean, they're close enough, good Lord. You know what I'm saying? Right. And that's one of those times when you do crazy stuff, you learn stuff about yourself that you would never learn any other time. That's it. You know what I'm saying? You don't learn stuff about yourself at home on the couch. You learn stuff about yourself when you do something crazy like drive from Lakeland to Atlanta to be there for the meeting the next day too. That's right. 100%. That's what all the people that you look at that have the posters up, they're going to have the banners up, including my buddy Ed Soto. You got the money's fun. Yeah. But a banner, man, come on, you know what I'm saying? That's what gets me fired up, you know what I'm saying? But the people whose banners you'll see at Family Reunion, they did that stuff. Does that make sense? They weren't always them. I think sometimes we forget that. We look at the leaders and we think they've always been like that. No. We were broke, scared people too. We were people that went, driving between meetings, drive through the night, I don't know. We went through that same stuff. So highly encourage you, get out there, see him tonight in Lakeland, Florida, Atlanta tomorrow. It's going to be off the chain, all right? Oh, my buddy Billy Crane's with Andy Flynn. So much good stuff going on. But let's get started with some more good stuff. We got some trip winners, guys. Let's start with Alaska. Eric and Bobby Belair. Woo! Mike Shields. Way to go, Mike. Merlene Felix, way to go! Woo! Kimberly Spinelli, you're going to Alaska. Now we got some people that won the extension. Not even a family reunion yet, but already winning the extension. Let me tell you something, the trips are fun. The extension though, that's next level stuff. That's next level stuff. And trust me, you don't want to win the trip and not win the extension. There's that walk of shame when the main trip's over. Right. Yeah, it is. Oh, boy. They kind of drag him back to the airport. Oh, boy. Got to get up early there. And we miss them, but then we get busy having fun. So, already won the extension, Brant and Jill Swindell. Already won the extension, my buddies Mark and Shannon Hutchison. Already won the extension, Minerva and Pierre, you're going to Seattle with us. You can win the extension. You got plenty of year left. I mean, just think about it. We got plenty of year left, but only if we start right now. Only if you start right now do you have plenty of year left. If you wait till after family reunion, if you wait till September, I'm telling you, tick, tock, tick, tock. We want you with us on both parts of the trip. You can do it. You can do it. All right. So what's kicking this week? You know we got family reunion coming up 8 days from now. And here's what's crazy. I've been going to these things for 18 years. And I'm more excited about this one than the last one. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what else can you say that about? Anything else like, oh yeah, I've been there, right? Every time I come to one of these events, it's like going to Disney for the first time. You know what I'm saying? When you go to Disney the first time, you're just like, I can't believe it. That's what this is like every time. Family reunion is coming up. What else am I excited about? I'm excited about seeing the IULs and the annuities take off all over. We're seeing that on our team. I know you're seeing it on your team, and the Alliance is seeing it as a whole. Everybody's getting into IULs and annuities. That's right. And you know, here's what I love about it. It's people pursuing excellence. Does that make sense? Yeah. Just going out and slinging final expense and simplified issue term, that's not excellence. Does that make sense? Adding these new things, that's reaching for excellence. And that's what I love about it. It's not just the growth in premium or the growth in people's bank accounts. It's that people are pursuing excellence by trying new things. That's right. See, without trying new things, we're never reaching for excellence. That's what I want in my marriage. I want my marriage to be excellent. Right. That's why I keep trying to figure out how to get better at it. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so when I see people doing annuities and IULs and adding these things that at first you can be like, oh, right, it's a lot. When I see people do that, that's what makes me proud. That's what makes me smile, is it's people reaching for excellence. All over the Alliance. Everybody's selling, everybody's recruiting, everybody's building. That's right. The subject I'm going to talk about today is how to connect. Because connecting is what makes the magic at the Alliance. I mean, you need some basic ingredients. You need to have a dream. Okay. Without a big dream, nobody's going to follow, right? Mm-hmm. You need to find the right people. But if we have a big dream and we keep finding the right people, but we don't connect, it's a missing part of the equation. Does that make sense? Yeah. But before we get into that, I want to do a quick family reunion prep. Is that good with you? Yeah. Because here's what I want. I want you to get the most out of family reunion. I want family reunion to be that event that changes you. I want you to walk in one person, walk out a different person. Okay. I want you to walk in at one level, walk out at a whole other level. That's what I want for you at family reunion. So let's do a little family reunion prep before we get into our subject. Okay. First thing, I'm making my association list. Who do you want to become friends with? I remember when I first started going to these events, I was like, yep, I'll be friends with that guy. They didn't know it yet, but I was going to be friends with them, you know what I'm saying? Because I was that strange, weird new guy too, you know, like, you know what I'm saying? Just like, hi, Mr. Fitzgerald, it's so nice to meet you, right? Like, I was that guy, like, you're so nervous, oh my God, it's Adam Katz, right? You know what I'm saying? I was that new guy too. So make your association list. Who are you going to get close to? Because here's what I know, who you hang with is who you're going to hang with. Does that make sense? Meaning if you hang with people all of the same income level, you're going to hang in there at that income level. Take the 5 closest people you associate with, add up their incomes, divide it by 5, and that's right where you're always going to be. And I'll see that at events. That's why I say association list, because I'll see it's like, oh, there's a herd of key leaders. They're going to stay key leaders. Does that make sense? And it breaks. I'm like, God, guys, come on. You know what I'm saying? And at your hot spots this week, say your final goodbyes until the next hot spot. Don't hang with that same crew. Right. This is your opportunity to get to know a Paul Roberts. Right. This is your opportunity to get to know the Levin Tovai. This is your opportunity to get to know Andy Riddle. I was like, I'm going to do it with a straight face, and it's going to be awesome. And then I didn't. You can't say Levin Tovai and not giggle. You know what I'm saying? Just a little bit. Actually, that would be a good sociopath test. Say Levin Tovai in front of somebody, if they don't at least giggle, you might end up in their trunk, just saying. But make your association list. Who are your new friends going to be? And then go out of your way to get around them. Get there early, stay late, find opportunities to get around the people that you want to get around. Because I want you to grow. But if you stay with the same people, the same, your hotspot crew, your key leader crew, your team builder crew, you're never going to move past that. Does that make sense? Yeah. And I want you to move past it. We need new heroes at the Alliance. Yeah. That's part of the reason I'm so fired up and so proud of Ed Soto. Yeah. We need new heroes. Right. We need new heroes. I'm getting tired of hearing my story. I want to hear your story. Does that make sense? I want you to be the next hero of the alliance. But in order to do that, you got to change who you're hanging with. So make that association list. Be on purpose with it. Here's another one. Take some time, and I like to do this late at night. You know why? Because I can be full of crap sometimes. I'm just like you. I'm capable. Yeah. Now, it started with a fun laugh, then it turned into an uncomfortable laugh. It started with. Then you're looking at your neighbor like, do they know too? Like, who else knows I'm full of crap? It's not paranoia if everybody is thinking about you. No, but I'm perfectly capable of convincing myself I'm doing better than I am. Does that make sense? I'm perfectly capable of explaining away my deficiencies. In fact, I can sell insurance, so I can make a deficiency look like a benefit. You know what I'm saying? Like, in fact, my forgetfulness it's an asset to me because, you don't need new stories. I'm an easy friend. You know what I'm saying? We can spin stuff. Does that make sense? So I like to do it late at night because I'm worn out. My guard's down. And I can go, you know what? The God's honest truth at the end of the day is, I'm dropping the ball here. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, the truth is, I got to get better here. I got to get better there. So make that list, because here's what I want to happen. I want it to hit you at the convention. But if you don't know what to listen for, it may not hit you. I see people come to the convention, they just plop down. It's going to be a good convention.
Yeah.
But they don't have a plan. Does that make sense? They don't know what they're listening for. Know this about Andy Albright. He is one of the most intentional people I've ever met. I learned intentionality from Andy's example. When we go to seminars that cost $7,500, he's planning on what he's going to get out of it. That's the example I try and imitate. So what do you need to learn? What do you need to get out of this? Come up with a list. And what that does is it turns your subconscious mind on to start listening for it. And then when one of the speakers says something, you go, oh yeah, that's what I needed to hear. Does that make sense? Next thing, gratitude. A grateful mind is an open mind. A grateful heart is an open heart. So we got to put ourselves in a grateful state before the convention. Not at the convention, before. Why? Because I don't want you to miss a minute of it. Does that make sense? You'll walk out of here grateful. I mean, unless there's just something just messed up about you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't hang with this crew and not be grateful. Does that make sense? I walk in here today, I'm instantly more grateful than I was when I walked in. And I like to think of myself as a pretty grateful person, but even still, I walk in here and I'm like, well, I'm more grateful all of a sudden. So you're going to be grateful at the end. What I want you to do is be grateful from the word go. So gratitude, who are you grateful for in the alliance? Who has done a call that product training call taught me what I needed to know to write my first annuity? Write that person a thank you note ahead of time. You know some of the speakers are going to just drop just crazy stuff on us, right? Yeah. You know Paul Roberts' talk's going to make you cry. You know. So go ahead and write him a thank you card ahead of time. Mm-hmm. What it does is it puts you in a grateful state. So now your mind's open and your heart's open. Does that make sense? Next thing. Next 8 days, jam that pipeline full. Run more appointments than you've ever run before in an 8-day period of time. Recruit more than you've recruited ever before in an 8-day period of time. Because here's why. Here's what I want to happen. I want you to sit in the convention center out there, and I want you to get deposits the whole time you're here.
Easy. Yes,
You know what I'm saying? Because here's what I want. I want you focused and in the moment with us. And it's not that money solves all your problems, but by God, if you know you got a deposit coming on Friday, and you know you got another one coming Monday when you get back, and you just got one on Wednesday, you're going to be a little more in the moment with us.
That's right.
Does that make sense? So jam the pipeline full. Because in the past, I've seen people come into convention, and it's like their production falls off going into convention, and what happens is they don't get as much out of convention. Because now they're thinking about production, now they're thinking about money, now they're thinking about bills. So jam that pipeline full. It's like working in a factory. What do they do when you have to work because they got more orders to fill? What is it called? Mandatory overtime? It's mandatory overtime. Alliance, mandatory overtime. Mandatory overtime going into convention. Trust me. And then last thing, one more. Think one more. Sometimes, and I've been guilty of this in the past, It's like we get to the week of convention and we stop promoting the convention because we think, well, everybody that's coming is coming. One more. One more. Can you get one more? What do I do once I get that? Can you get one more? One person could change everything about your business. Think about this. Ed Soto, guess what he was? He was a one more. He was a one more. One more conversation. One more chance to lock somebody into coming. Well, they got a ticket. They're coming. One more.
That's right.
One more. Think one more all the way up into it. I'll be driving in going one more. Make sense? So family reunion's coming. I want you to get the most out of it. I want to spend a few minutes this morning talking about that, or this afternoon. So let's get going with our topic for today.
All right. Bring it.
We got to connect. It's the connections. Think about this. It's my connection with Andy that creates the magic. It's Andy's connection with Paul Roberts. It's Andy's connection with Andy Riddle. It's my connection with Andy Riddle. The connections is what makes the alliance work. That's the magic. It's the connections. So if you're going to have a massive business, it's going to be a bunch of connections. And we've all seen it where people can, and maybe you've done it. I've done it. You can bring people in, bring people in, bring people in. And as fast as you're bringing them in, yeah, that's all you're doing all day. Yeah, you can't make progress like that. As a message, we can't make progress unless we have deep connections. And so what I want to talk about today are qualities of connectors. When I look at the best connectors, when I look at, the Andy Albrights, when I look at the Riddles, when I look at those, when I look at who's connecting with people the most, this is the stuff I see. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right. The first one, point number one, when it comes to connectors, humility. Oops, there's not two L's in humility. New goal. Have a big enough business that I can change whatever words I want. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it used to be spelt like that. I would go back to school again just to be able to change some stuff. I had a teacher that she would look at my signature on my papers, and she asked, "Are you a doctor?" And I said, "Not currently." I felt like it was kind of a dumb question. I'm in, 6th grade. But she says, "Well, until you're a doctor, clean up your signature and your handwriting." So you know what I did? I started signing all my papers, Dr. Stephen Davies. Her reaction was a little bit different than y'all's. Just saying. She did not find it particularly piquant. But humility, it starts with humility. Why? Because if without it, none of the rest of the things I'm talking about matter. And name, I'll give you $10,000 cash right now if you can name one haughty person that you feel connection with on a deep level. Right? Everybody brings joy to a room. Some do it when they walk in, some do it when they leave.
Oh, easy, Stephen. Read your Bible.
Yeah. The funny part is the ones that bring joy to a room when they leave, they walk out going, "Mm-hmm. You're welcome." So they don't even know we're talking about them. Does that make sense? Like they're going, "Yeah, some people do." But humility, and it's really the foundation. You can connect with humble people. You can love humble people. We got to love everybody. I know it, right? We're supposed to. But God, it's hard to love haughty people. It's hard to love them. We got to try, but it's easy to love humble people. That's one of the things I love about Andy Albright. He's a humble man. Now, I was thinking about how crazy the alliance is. I'm walking in, and you got to walk past the original convention center to get to the studio, and there's a Lamborghini and a Ferrari just like parked there, and it's like normal here. Like, right? It's just like, oh, hey, there's tables, some chairs, and a Ferrari. That's just how it is here. But I love Andy that he keeps that humility. Does that make sense? When we think about humility, it's not taking ourselves too seriously. And I promise you, if you take yourself too seriously, you're the only one. Nobody else is taking you that serious. Does that make sense? Don't take yourself too serious. That's a stressful life. Have you ever seen somebody that takes themselves too serious? It's stressful. Why? Because they need to make sure everybody knows how great they are at everything, and constantly constantly masking any weaknesses, or just it's stressful. And they can't connect with anybody. And when I see a leader that can't keep people, this is one of the biggest ones they're missing. They're missing that humility. In times in my life where I've really screwed up, it's when the humility left. Does that make sense? You got to keep that humility, keep that connection. It takes humility to let people know you need them. You see, proud people, they can't let their team know they need them. I need my team. I love you. I need you. We can't do what we need to do here without you. Does that make sense? You all need it. We need everybody. We got a big project. We need you. We need everybody. A haughty person can't say that. And when do you feel connected? When you know somebody needs you, right? You feel that sense of connection with them. Being humble, too, is about acknowledging shortcomings. Think about this. It's our imperfections that connect us. Now, you may not want to admit this, but it's true. You kind of like it when I screw up. Right. Does that make sense? Yeah. Just like I kind of like it when you screw up. Because then we go, okay, whew. You know what I'm saying? Because we tend to think of things, at least normal people, we tend to think of, well, normal for us. We tend to look at things through the lens of our own imperfections, right? The stupid things we've done in the past, the things we wish we could forget. God, I said it like that? What an idiot. We tend to think through that lens, and we forget that everybody else is dealing with that too. Right. Does that make sense? So that's why we kind of like it when we see each other screw up. Like, okay, you like me. You too. Oh, and God bless if somebody screws up bigger. Whoa, that was a rough talk. Yeah. Yes. Woo. It's our imperfections that connect us. It's called humanness, right? When we see humanness in each other, we feel connected. So if we're going to work on humility, what do we do? Well, it's about giving up. It's about giving up the right things. First thing, give up having to know it all. The list of things I know, far smaller than the list of things I don't know. Or backwards. The list of things I know, much smaller than the list of things I don't know. But when people deal with pride issues, they got to know it all. They got to be the source of all answers. You'll kind of see them at convention, mother henning their people, right? I'm the source of all information, right? The hallway philosophers at events. Easy, Stephen. Does it make sense? Got to have all the answers. No. You can't connect with people. And I know it might seem strange, like I'm in a leadership position. I should know all the answers. No, it's impossible. Does that make sense? So being humble is about letting go of needing to know all the answers. Here's what else it is. It's letting go of I can do it all. I still remember early on, I'd goofed up, if you can picture that, and I was trying to fix it without talking to Andy. And Andy said, Bo, the same pride that keeps you from coming for help is likely the pride that caused you to get off the basics in the beginning anyway. So let go of I can do it all. I can't do what we can do, and what we can do is huge. Make sense? Humility is also letting go, giving up the need to look perfect. Have you ever seen these people? Oh, dear God, I'm related to something like that. I mean, for me, it's funny to watch, but for them, it looks exhausting. Right? I'm perfect. I'm perfect. This is our perfect marriage and our perfect children where everything's perfect. Perfect. We're perfect, right? Yeah. Watch out for those people. There is a sea of dysfunction swirling underneath all that mess. You can't fix problems if you're already perfect. Does that make sense? And that's all we're going to do as long as we're alive is fix problems and get better at stuff we're bad at. I mean, that's us, right? Humility is about letting go or giving up needing to be better than others. You'll see this a lot with, good Lord, a leaderboard comes out. Got to explain away why I'm actually better than that person that's got better numbers than me, right? Well, they only got that number because of this. You know what I'm saying? Let go of it. We don't need you to be better than anybody. We need you to be better than you were yesterday. That's all. Does that make sense? And then tomorrow we're going to wake up again, and we're going to try and be better tomorrow than we were today. That's all we're trying to be better than. We don't need to be better than anybody else. We just need to be better than we were yesterday. That's what we're working on. And if you'll notice, people that are constantly worried about being better than or viewed as better than someone else, they never become a better version of themselves, because all their work is outward focused instead of inward focused. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's explaining away and pulling others down, right?
Yeah.
Don't try and keep up with the Joneses. Just pull them down to your level. It's a lot less work. You know what I'm saying? Instead of going inward and going, how do I get better? Makes sense? Humility is about letting go of defensiveness. Defensiveness is a manifestation of inordinate pride. And I get it. I'm just like you. I don't like getting called out either, right? I don't like it when a deficiency is brought to my attention. I don't like it. I get defensive, right? But we got to let go of it, because we can't have humility and defensiveness in the same circle. Does that make sense? Humility is openness to correction. Pride is closeness to correction. Does it make sense? Humility is letting go of the fact, giving up thinking that we're special. I love you and I need you to hear me. You're not special. I'm sorry. I'm not special either. We're unique. I'll give you that. But you're not special. You're not going to be able to get by on talent alone. It's going to be just as hard for you as it was for me, as it was for the rest of us. You're going to have to push through heartbreak, right? You're not special. You're unique, and we love you and we need you. But humility is letting go of thinking, I'm special. I don't have to do here. Because the problem with thinking we're special is we think we're immune to sowing and reaping. Does that make sense? Because sowing and reaping applies to everybody. So if we're special, sowing and reaping doesn't apply to us. And that's something, and by the way, if I'm hitting on anything, I'm talking to me too, right? Every conversation is with myself. Sometimes it will involve you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know? And that's perfectly mentally healthy. And that's perfectly mentally healthy. And so am I. Me too. No, every conversation is with yourself. Remember, we're all in this together. We're just going to try and be better tomorrow than we were today. Humility is about letting go or giving up thinking we're owed the good stuff. Thinking we're owed things like happiness. I deserve to be happy. No. You woke up today. That means you get to work to be happy. Okay. Does that make sense? I deserve success. Sometimes when people join the alliance, it's like they feel like that's, once they do that now they're going to be successful. Right. That's kind of like, it's kind of like eating alphabet cereal and thinking that will make you good at spelling. Does that make sense? It's like getting better at words. It takes more than that. Does that make sense? Yeah. We're not owed success. We get to work towards it, right? We're not owed significance. So I should be recognized. I've heard that before. Like, Andy should use me more to give leadership talks. I'm like, well, it would help if you started leading some people, because you know what I'm saying? Like, we're not owed anything. When I get that email that says I get to speak at convention, I still go, right? Humility is about letting go of thinking we are owed anything. Does that make sense? Can you see how all of those things, if we put those things down, can you see how that would make us connect or allow us to connect with people better? Can you see how your humanness, not knowing it all, makes the rest of us love you more? Because we're all grateful going, oh, thank God, another one just like me. You know what I'm saying? Can you think letting go of entitlement, can you see how that would make us all closer and make us tighter? So humility is really, the reason I wanted to beat this one to death is it's really the gateway to connectedness, right? To connecting with people. It's the first one. It's the gateway. Once we become humble and work on it, we open up the door to connection with each other. Now the key is keep that gate open. Key is not to let the results go to our head. Because once we open that gate, we're going to start connecting with people. And once we connect with people, we can move people. Once we move people, results are going to come in. And people are going to talk about how awesome you are. And you're going to get a banner. Can we keep it open? It's going to be a constant struggle. But here's the deal. Not only is it the gateway to connecting with people, it's the gateway to being happy. And that's what I want for you. Now, I always tell people, if you're under my care, I want you to be three things: happy, healthy, and wealthy. And wealthy is about a lot more than money. Don't hear wealthy and don't hear me say wealthy and say, oh, he just wants me to have a lot of money. I want you to have enough to take care of you and help those in need. You don't help poor people by staying one. Does that make sense? Right. But chief among my list, I want you to be happy. Humility is the key to being happy. You won't find a prideful person that's happy. Be crystal clear. Millionaires commit suicide too. You can have money and not be happy. Humility, it's not just the key to connecting with each other, it's the key to being happy. Because could you really be happy if you didn't have connection with people? Think about your happiest moments. Are they ever when you're all by yourself? Name one. I like to throw these $10,000 challenges out all the time. Name one time, one of your top happiest times that didn't involve somebody else. It's our connection, right? Birth of a child, wedding, right? Celebration, winning, right? It's with others. So humility being that gate to connecting with others, it's the gate to happiness. So not only do we got to open it, we got to keep it open. And that's why we need each other. We need to remind each other. Does that make sense? All right, number 2. Effort. Connection takes effort. Why? Because it's work. Connection doesn't just happen. When you see people that are connected, that's two people that are working hard at it. When you see that married couple that's been married forever and they're just happy as can be, and you just see and you're like, man, they're close. That's two people working their butts off. People get this illusion like it's their one true love and the sky's open and they saw this person and now I'll be happy forever for I have met my one true person. And come on. I'm thinking about Biz Marquee now. Come on. You got what I need. Now be clear, I'm not cynical. I'm not saying I don't believe in love. I believe in love. I love Holly to pieces. Sometimes enough where she says, okay, could you go do something else now? I must be too loving, you know. Loving and annoying both end with the same 3 letters, I'll have you know. Very close, very similar concepts. Very similar concepts. But when you see that couple that looks like they got magic, the universe didn't conspire to put them together. They're working on it. And even if the universe did conspire to put them together, if they don't work at it, it ain't going to stay. Does that make sense? And you've seen this because you've talked to people before, and you can tell that one or both of them's given up on the marriage. And it's just a matter of time. They're already apart in the future. We just haven't got to that part in the timeline yet. Does that make sense? So connection takes effort. We have to work to not only create circumstances to connect, but even inside the circumstances to connect, we have to work to make the connection happen. It's like hot spots. The difference between a great hot spot and a hot spot, people working to make connection happen in the hot spot. And I'll get it sometimes when I'm touring, and I'll go to a hot spot that's one of the working to improve hot spots. Here's the problem. The people in the meeting think it's somebody else's job to make the connections happen. Does that make sense? And here's how I know. I'll hear things like, well, when you're in town, and it's like, I'm not that special. Quite frankly, I'm trying to get through this hot spot without screwing up too bad. Right? So it's not me. Does that make sense? And then you go to a hot spot that's got it going on. Oh, God, those are easy. Oh, man. When I go to a hot spot like that, I mean, it's easy. Somehow they practically do themselves. You know, I could just stand up there and do nothing, and it would still be a great hot spot. It's like, I just wave at everybody for 45 minutes. Man, that was the best hot spot. Why? Because the people in the hot spot are working to make connection happen. Does that make sense? And you can ask anybody that goes and does hot spots. They'll tell you that they can tell the difference between a hot spot where people are working to make connection happen and a hot spot where people are expecting somebody else to make connection happen. Does that make sense? So if you want connection with your people and connection in your life, it's going to be a lot of work. You can't just walk through. Does that make sense? Right. You can't just show up. You got to work to make connection happen. I'll give you another example. Date night. Are some date nights better than other date nights? Yeah. Why? The ones where we're working harder to connect. Better date night. You see people on date nights both on their phone, right? Not a great date night. Why? They're not working to connect with each other. Relationships with children. I could keep naming example after example after example, but what I'm telling you is it takes work. So what kind of work? Number one, take the work, put the work in to value people every day. You're not going to be perfect at it. I'm not. Confession is good for the soul. On the way down here yesterday, I thought something less than an enlightening, uplifting thought about one of my fellow travelers on the road. Yeah, all right. I'm in the same struggle with you, you know what I'm saying? I want to love people. Stop making it so hard! God! I just want to roll down my window and go, I'm trying to love people today! Help me, God! No, I'm not going to Walmart today. I'm trying to love people today. I'm trying to love people. What makes it hard to love people? People make it hard to love people all the time, right? So it takes work. It's a decision. I got to get up tomorrow again and go, I'm going to be better tomorrow. I'm going to value people more tomorrow. Stop making it so hard. Right? It's a decision. It's not a circumstance. Does that make sense? It's a decision. You look at somebody like Paul Roberts. Paul Roberts loves people. Like when I'm with Paul Roberts, I feel like, I'm like, God, I got so far to go in this loving people department. It's just like, man, he loves people. He's not born like that. He doesn't wake up like that. He makes that decision every day. Does that make sense? Every day he makes that decision. And guess what? He's not perfect at it either. So if you're like me, and we're working, this is going to be something me and you work on together, we're going to work on it together. But it's a decision. We got to get up every day and make it. I'm going to value people. And this is why I went with humility first. Because without humility, we'll only value those that give value back. Right? You can't have connection with transactional love. You can't. You have a marriage that's transactional love, they're already divorced in the future. We just haven't got to that part in the timeline yet. Does that make sense? It's easy to love somebody when they're being easy to love. That's not love. Does that make sense? Loving the unlovable, that's love. And that's a decision to value people every day. The other thing we got to work hard at, making ourselves more valuable in our relationships. Not making the other person give more, but making me more valuable. How can I be more valuable in our relationship? You see, that's why we read. That's why we come to family reunion, so that we can be more valuable in our relationships. That's part of the work we put in to create connection, becoming more valuable in our relationships. I want to stay connected with Holly. I want to get more connected with Holly. I want to stay connected with my children. I want to be more connected with my children. What does that mean? This version of Stephen ain't going to get it done. Does that make sense? This version of Stephen's not going to get it done. I got to get better. So I got to work to be better so that I can give more in those relationships. Here's the other one. Number 3, put ourselves in people's world. And I'll say this, at their stage of growth, at their current stage of personal growth, putting ourselves in that world. That will make it easier to love people when they're not being super lovable. Because we can look back and we go, I used to be that guy too. Okay. All right. Does that make sense? This will keep us from snapping at people. Because here's what happens. Connection gets broken a little bit at a time and then all at once. It's kind of like going broke. How do you go broke? A little bit at a time and then all at once. Right? How'd that marriage fall apart? A little bit at a time and then all at once. The same thing with relationships that break. Because here's what happens. I snap at you. I come back later and I say, man, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Hey, we good? What are you going to say? We're good. We're not good, right? We might be good, but we're not the same. Does that make sense? There's a lack of connection now between us. So if beforehand I can go, but if I've seen it through his eyes, okay, I can keep from snapping. Does that make sense? Yeah. And you'll see it at hotspots. People do stuff at hotspots. It's like, it's not hard to have a phone on silent. Does that make sense? Right. So if somebody's phone is not on silent, it goes off in the meeting and they take the call and okay, it is what it is. Does it make sense? Mm-hmm. Whatever stage of development they're at, you got to try and see things through their eyes. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Because and Andy taught me this early on, I got so irritated about stupid stuff like this. I would get so irritated. And I'd make a little snap, crack, you know? Mm-hmm. And he said, Bo, when you do that stuff, all you do is show people what you do under pressure. And they can't trust you if you snap under pressure. I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. So trying to see things through that person's current state of development, that will help you not lose that connection by snapping. Focus on benefiting people more than ourselves. When somebody lacks the connection skills to keep people involved and to keep their business growing, it's because they're trying to get premium and overrides from their people instead of giving love and affirmation and equipping their people. That's right. Does that make sense? That's right. Our job, and this is, I would definitely write this down. Your job, my job as a leader, our job is to leave people better than we found them. Does that make sense? Yeah. Leave people better than you found them. And what if they don't stay with you forever? I still just want to leave them better than I found them. Does that make sense? Again, this is all under effort, right? All of these things take work. They take work to do and they take work to stay. Kind of like getting in shape, right? You thought it was hard to get there. You know what I'm saying? You thought it was hard to get there. Try and stay there. You know what I'm saying? God, that's work. Same thing here. It takes work to connect. It takes work to stay connected. All right, next one. Be a consistent friend. That's part of the effort we put in to connect. Be a consistent friend, not a sometimes friend. Jeff Bright and I were just talking about this. I was eating my Chick-fil-A and we were chatting. That's the speaker meal of choice before a TWC. Amber will text you, go on to Chick-fil-A, you want anything? Yep. I'm talking to Jeff and we're talking about friendship versus management. And it has to be both, right? You do have to manage, right? Because there's things we got to do. We got to make phone calls, right? There's things we got to do. We got to be places. But the friendship piece, being a friend to someone, asking them about their child that was sick 2 days ago when you talked to them, shooting them a text just because. And the bigger your organization gets, the harder it gets. That's why this is all under the subject of work. Does that make sense? But being a consistent friend. And that's when I look back at me and Andy's relationship. It's not perfect, but no human relationship is. Right. But Andy has always been a consistent friend to me. Does that make sense? And that's one of the reasons I love him, because he's been a consistent friend. So if me and you are going to stay connected, we got to stay consistent friends. That's why those starstruck romances don't work out unless you put in the work. Why? Well, because eventually you're going to learn that each other are imperfect. And that's when the work starts. Does that make sense? A couple that recently got married, I asked them, I said, so have you figured out who uses toothpaste in the correct manner? And they both go, huh? And he goes, she grabs it in the middle like a crazy person. She's like, you would never get your teeth brushed if you rolled it up tight like he does to try and get it all to the... Great question to ask newlyweds. You figure out who does toothpaste correct? Right? But that's where the work starts, being a consistent friend. See, I've got to be a consistent friend to Holly if I want to stay connected with her. Does that make sense? And I got to be a better, more consistent friend tomorrow if I want to amp up that connection. Make sense? Next thing you got to work at to create connection. Create great memories for people. Great memories for people. Think of how can I make family reunion a memory they'll never forget? How can I make this dinner before a hot spot a great memory? When you go on these trips with us, you get we're going to have a bunch of great memories on that trip. They don't happen on accident. Andy and the Eventures crew work to create great memories for us on those trips. Does that make sense? Remember in Paris? Remember when we walked in to the final dinner night there, and wasn't that a great memory? Yeah. That didn't just happen. Does that make sense? It's because Andy and Jane worked to create a great memory for us. So it takes work. And then the last thing under effort is just you got to put in the time. You got to put in the face time. And not the Apple feature. I'm talking about where I get out on the road and I see you face to face. Does that make sense? I get out there where I put my hands on you. There's no replacement for it. You can't build relationships at a distance. Because sometimes you'll get catfished. No, I'm just kidding. You can't build a relationship at a distance. You have got to get there and see people. You got to get eyeball to eyeball. And you can't expect them to come to you. You got to go to them. Why? Because you got to put yourself in their world. Well, that's not fair. I'm a leader. I'm sorry, but that's exactly what a leader's got to do. Does that make sense? You don't have to be a leader. But if you want to be a leader, we've got to go where the people are. Go to them. You won't find a top leader that just said, come to me. Right. Top leaders, no matter what it is, they go. Make sense? Put in the heart time. Think about people when you're not with people. Glenn Lamb's one of the people I love like you wouldn't believe. I think about him a lot. His life now, with a child on the way, it makes me so happy because I can think about all the worrying I did for him. Does that make sense? I think back to how much I used to worry for him and what he was going through at that time. The way his life has, I get goosebumps, right? So put in the heart time. Put in the face time and the heart time. And put in the phone time too. When I'm more connected with people, I promise you, if you sort my minutes at the end of the month, those are the ones I'm most connected to. So here would be my question with that. Who are you putting those minutes with? Put them with people that you want to connect with. All right? So that's the effort piece. Number 3, great connectors are self-aware and working to stay self-aware. It's easy to be self-aware when things aren't going well. It's when things go well. Oh boy. That's where we can lose some of that self-awareness. But if we lose self-awareness, we lose our connection with people. I kind of think of connection with people like a dam, right? And at the bottom of a dam, you have gates. And how much water comes out of a dam depends on how high the gates are. Does that make sense? So every single one of these pieces is like a gate on the dam. The degree to which you hold it up and keep it up is the degree to which the connection is going to flow.
Oh, that's good right there.
So if I lose the self-awareness, that's one of my gates closed. I'm not connecting with people like I was. And I promise you this gets tough. And I can't speak for everybody, but I can speak for me. Okay, I can speak for everybody. We love it when people say good stuff about us. You know what I'm saying? We love it. It feels good, right? And when handled properly by us, it's a good natural feeling that stems from connection. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like the text, my guys were texting me all before the show, and it just about made me want to cry. Just tell me how much they love me and how much I've helped them, and that feels good. And and when handled well by me, is a good thing. When not handled well by me, becomes the self-awareness gate going down. You're welcome. Glad you benefited from my awesomeness. Right? I'm losing self-awareness. Love you too, man. You mean so much to me. Does it make sense? And again, why I went with humility first? Without humility, we're not going to be self-aware. So what is self-awareness? It's being aware of the effect that we have on others. Being aware of that effect. You think about it like a boat. A boat leaves what? A wake. We're all together right now. We're connected. We're going to leave here, or you're going to tune out on your computer, and you're going to leave with feelings about me. We're going to leave here, because we were all here personally, with feelings about each other. That's the wake we leave.
That's right.
So self-awareness is being aware of that wake. Have you ever met, or have you ever dealt with somebody that lacked self-awareness, like completely? Like delusions of competence, not even delusions of grandeur, you know what I'm saying? Like just not self-aware. If you or I think everybody thinks we're awesome, it is in fact proof that we're not awesome. Does that make sense? Yeah. Self-awareness is that ability to think on the wake that I leave behind. So what are some self-awareness blockers? What are some things that can cause us to slide that gate down and lose that bit of connection? Number one, excuses. Realize that excuses are just a manifestation of lack of self-awareness. And your humanness, remember we talked about that in the first one. It's your humanness that we love. Your imperfect. We you know what I'm saying? That's how we connect, through our imperfections. And so any mistake you make or less than enlightened thing you do is less nauseating than the excuses used to paint over it. Does that make sense? Because that's really all excuses are. It's just a thin coat of paint on a big problem. You got a busted up, falling apart house. You can put a fresh coat of paint on it, but it doesn't fix it. That's all an excuse is. It's like, wait, yeah, but here I just missed a growth moment. I just missed an opportunity to grow. I missed an opportunity to get better. And remember, we talked about that in the previous point. I got to get better for you, just like you need to get better for us. Does that make sense? So when I use an excuse, it's a manifestation of my lack of self-awareness, and I missed an opportunity. And if we don't learn from our lessons, the penalty gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm thinking of somebody right now that the way he's handling his marriage, I'm going, Bo, the penalty's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. She's going to leave you if you don't, you know what I'm saying? I want, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm pulling for it. I'm going, God. But that's how we are. Excuses, that just, it's like putting something on a credit card. We're going to pay for it later and it's going to be more expensive. Self-awareness blocker, another one. Success fantasies not grounded in reality. It kind of goes back to the you're not special, I'm not special. Success is a lot of work. Having an impact in people's lives is a ton of work. So any fantasies about it that aren't grounded in hard work or grounded in reality, that's lack of self-awareness. That means we think we're above the fray. Does that make sense? Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I hope it's not as much work for you as it has been for me. I hope so. Because I know how much work keeping me together is. God. I hope you're a little easier. But success fantasies not grounded in reality, that's a lack of self-awareness. Another one, talking without listening. Have you ever tried to coach somebody that talks without listening? You can't coach them. You can't coach them. You try, because when you're coaching somebody, you know, you try and work. You know, you can't just call people up and blast them and be like, hey, here's 8 things you suck at. Number 1, get a pen. Okay, now there's 9 because you don't have anything to write with, right? 9 things you suck at. You want to keep talking? I got to get this, you know what I'm saying? You can't just call and blast people. You got to work them there, right? And when somebody talks without listening and you're trying to work it there, it's just like, I can't coach this person. And it goes back to the humility part. You know, they don't want me to know, or they think I don't know that they're a mess. Does that make sense? Because they're the mirage. Another one, self-awareness blocker, unresolved negative emotions. You got to let that stuff go, man. Unresolved negative emotions. You got to work through it, get out, work through it, and get moving. Otherwise, it's going to be a self-awareness blocker. Habitual self-distraction. Watch this. Next time you're around people, anytime there's a delay, what do people do? Pull out their phone. You got to occupy their mind right away. Why? Because they don't want to think the thoughts they're thinking. That's a huge growth inhibitor on our society. The amount of self-distraction that we have access to. I was like, oh, I was thinking a real thought. Better Candy Crush it. You know what I'm saying? Woo! Right? Ooh, I was just coming to some realizations on things I need to fix about myself. Better watch something on Netflix instead.
Right. Yeah.
It's a self-awareness blocker. Does that make sense? Habitual self-distraction. So if you find yourself constantly reaching for distractions, it's because you're fighting, you're trying not to hear what you need to hear the most. In fact, one of the best questions you can ask yourself going into family reunion, what have I been trying not to hear?
That's a good question.
What have I been trying not to hear in my marriage? What have I been trying not to hear in my business? What have I been trying not to hear with my health? What have I been trying not to hear with my kids? What have I been trying not to hear? Right? Reaching for constant self-distraction keeps those noises down. And there's a Cherokee proverb that says, he who listens to the whispers won't have to hear the screams. That's why habitual self-distraction is such a self-awareness blocker. Here's another one, absence of personal reflection. I came down last night, before I do the TWC, and when I'm by myself like that, I hate being away from my family. God, I love being with my kid. I mean, y'all haven't seen kids like my kids, right? Maybe we feed that everybody's special thing. I love my kids so much. I love Holly so much. I don't relish being away from them. But I do kind of enjoy the time to have no noise and ask myself this question. What's it like to be on the other side of me? That's a personal reflection question. What's it like to be on the other side of me? If you really want to get to the heart of the wake you leave behind, the wake you and I leave behind, it's we got to ask ourselves that question. What's it like to be on the other side of me? That's where we're going to find out the stuff, right? That's where we're going to find the stuff we need to fix. And again, that's reaching for self-awareness. Last self-awareness blocker, unwillingness to pay the price to gain experience. Longest route anywhere is what? Shortcut. When we're not willing to pay the price, we're not going to have self-awareness. And that would be like another gate we just put down in this dam of connection we're trying to create with people. But we work to stay self-aware, we're flowing, baby. We're flowing. We're connecting. Make sense? All right. Connection principle number 4. Being trustworthy. You can't stay connected with somebody that you do not feel is trustworthy. And we've all been through that experience. It's very disappointing, right? We feel like we have a connection, and then we learn we can't trust that person. And it's so disappointing, right? And that's what causes some people to give up on being connected. You've seen these people. They're already dead. They're the walking dead, right? They just haven't filed the paperwork at the coroner's office yet.
Right.
Because they've given up on trying to have a connection. Too many disappointments, they just give up on trying to have a connection with anybody else. Well, we don't want it. Me and you as leaders, we can't be that one more on anybody. Does that make sense? Let's work together, not be that one more example that causes somebody to give up eventually on having connection with people. So when we think of trustworthiness, we're talking really about 2 things that make you feel that you can trust somebody. It's the strength of character they have and their ability to earn and keep respect. Because really when we lose our trust in somebody, it's because of a serious flaw in their character, and then we lose respect for them, and then the trustworthiness goes away. And then now, we're no longer connected with that person. So let's talk about those 2 components. We talk about strength of character, and we talk about earning and keeping respect. So when it comes to strength of character, again, just like loving people, it's a choice we got to make every day. In fact, it's a choice we got to make every minute. And we're not going to be perfect at it, and that's okay. But we got to keep making that choice. What happens if you make a mistake? We just make the choice again. And now I choose again to possess strength of character. It's a choice we got to make every day. It's a choice we got to make every minute. What's the truest indication of our character? It's the choices we make when no one would know.
That's right.
If you want to really look in that character mirror, what am I when nobody is around? That's the truest test of our character. So when in those moments we make decisions and we work to make decisions in those moments, we're building strength of character. And that gets us to trustworthiness. Our character, it speaks louder than anything we say. And we've all seen that where the audio and the video don't match up, right? That's a character problem. And so instead of focusing on what people see, focus on what we be. Does that make sense? We can't focus on what everybody sees. We got to focus on what we're being. When it comes to strong character, it's got to be full circle. We can't be strength of character in the business, kind of a jerk at home. Does that make sense? We can't be honest with our agents, dishonest with our spouse.
Right.
Does that make sense? Full circle, full circle. The world will try and tell you to compartmentalize.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. You are who you are. You are who you are in every area of your life. Strong character takes the high road every time. Takes the high road every time. And let me tell you something, that's diametrically opposed to the way society in general operates. They say things like fight fire with fire, right? Strength of character, it's not that. Think about some of those things that are common out there, but if you and I want to be leaders with connection to people, we can't have. We can't be passive aggressive. And some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. No, we can't be. Why? Because if the minute I'm passive aggressive with you, we lose some of that connection. Yeah. We slid that gate down the dam. We're losing connection when I'm passive aggressive with you. Sarcastic. People paint sarcastic as funny. And I'm not talking about playful sarcasm, right? I'm talking about hurtful sarcasm. Sarcasm is not a virtue. It's a shame that the world around us acts like it is, because it's not. You show me a marriage with biting, hurtful sarcasm, that is toxic. Well, it's the same thing in our relationships with each other and relationships with our people. And it only takes that one, like we were talking before, that one snap, sarcastic snap at you, gate down, gate closed, connection lost. It's not revenge focused, right? I hope they get there, right? Taking the high road is not revenge focused. the two, realize this, revenge and getting back at people, that's the business of poor, uninformed people. When we're thinking, I want them to get theirs, come on, that's the lowest level of human behavior, to constantly seek and want revenge and hope they get theirs. Right? Let me tell you something. Say somebody really did screw you over. Guess what? They're living their punishment. Yeah. They're living their punishment, and they got to deal with stuff that me and you don't got to deal with. They don't. So we don't need to waste any of our productive time thinking about that, right? In taking the high road, it's about not being controlled by our emotions. Can you see how the first three, anytime we reach for those, we're being controlled by our emotions? And be crystal clear, hurting sarcasm, passive-aggressive stuff, that's the tools of the weak. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's the tools of the scaredy cats. They can't address real issues, so they got to fire one off at them. Right. Strong character is about unconditional love and forgiveness. The thing about people that have the most strength of character, they love unconditionally and they forgive. Strength of character is about refusing to play games with people. Refusing to play games. Strength of character is about being guided by principles, not guided by feelings. Mm-hmm. Think about the people you trust the most. Why do I trust Andy Albright? He's imperfect. Why do I trust him? Because he's guided by principles, which means he's going to make the right decision in the end. Does that make sense? Right. Guided by principles. That's strength of character. You think about anybody else whose character, you trust the strength of their character, somebody that's guided by principles. Mm-hmm. Strength of character is wanting the best long-term for others. So what does that mean? That means not winning all the battles today. And for some of us, that's a tough one. Well, I was captain of the debate team, if you can imagine that. I'm a good arguer, right? But wanting the best long-term for others isn't about winning the arguments. I could win all the arguments and lose your love. In fact, if I win all the arguments, I'm probably going to lose your love. Does that make sense? Want the best long-term for others. And strength of character is about delivering on promises. When we don't deliver on our promises, we lose our trustworthiness with people. We lose that connection. What promises are hard to deliver on? Well, the hard ones, right? The ones that you overcommitted. Being there early, right? I got to have that conversation. Those are the harder ones to deliver on. Strength of character, we deliver on those promises. Strength of character, you picture on one side. On the other side's convenience. Having strength of character, never convenient. So then you move that second piece about earning and keeping respect. Here's some simple things on that. One, we got to care more than we have to. Care more than we have to. Serve more than we have to. I texted Terry last night just to make sure he was going to be here today. You know, just I like doing TWC better when Terry's here. But the first thing he texts back says, yes, I'm going to be there. How can I serve? You see what I'm saying? That's someone that earns and keeps respect. How about this? Work harder than you have to. Do you respect any of the just enough people you know? Right? Just enough people always end up disappointing us, don't they? So work harder than we have to. Produce more than we have to. Not just talk to talk, but make things happen more than we have to. And lastly, when it comes to earning and keeping respect, grow more than we have to. Grow more than we have to. Outgrow your level on the outside. Outgrow inside. Like you may be a key leader right now, but I need you growing to district manager on the inside because eventually you will get there. But if you want to earn and keep respect, we got to grow more on the inside than the outside. What does all this take, this trustworthiness thing? The two things, self-discipline and consistency. But when we're trustworthy, we're connecting. Does that make sense? And that's when the magic happens. That's when the magic happens. All right, number 5. Generosity. Who do we connect with? We connect with generous people. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to go out of frame. That's just good fun. I'm sorry. Okay, you host a TWC and don't try and do something like that. I'm just saying. Judge not, lest ye have hosted the TWC and not. Yeah. I rolled into Burlington with a trunk full of shenanigans, I want to tell you. Think about the people we connect with. They're generous people. Why? Because when we see generosity as an outward manifestation, what does that tell us about that person? They got my best interests at heart. And it's not even generosity they extend to us, it's generosity they extend to someone else. And we see that and we go, that's somebody who will have my best interests at heart. That's by the way, that's why you feel connected with Andy even if you don't have a strong personal relationship with him yet. You see his generosity, you see what he gives, and you go, that's somebody that has my best interest at heart. And isn't that crazy? It wasn't even something given to you. It's something you saw him give someone else. And you get that feeling like, that's somebody that's going to have my best interests at heart. That's why generosity is such a key piece for us. It's when we want more for our people than we want from our people. That's how it feels. You know, all of these have a feel. Does that make sense? We're describing them, we're talking about them, but at the end of the day, these all have a feel. Well, the feel of generosity is that they want more for me than they want from me. And so if you look at leaders that create that strong sense of connection on their team, isn't that what you see? Yeah. I talked about Andy, but you could talk about any of the top leaders like that. You look at the Leventoviches, and you see, it doesn't even sound right. Leventovic is so much better. You look at them and you go, that's people that want more for their people than they want from their people. You look at a Diane Lampy, that's someone that wants more for her people than she wants from her people. She came to Asheville we did a recognition for our team, and she came to Asheville, wouldn't even let me buy her plane ticket. You know what I'm saying? And it's not even her team. And you say, well, how does that help her people feel? Well, they look at that and go, that's someone that wants more for me than they want from me. That generosity to others instills that feeling inside of us. It lets everybody know we've got their best interests at heart. When I'm generous, you know I got your best interests at heart, even if it's not directed at you. So what kind of things do we need to be generous with if we want to have, again, what we're after is that sense of connection. We got all the gates up and the water's flowing and we're connected. Well, what things do we need to be generous with to create that connection? Well, one, giving people a chance. Show me a leader that's growing. I'll show you somebody that's accepting people where they're at currently. Now, don't get me wrong. How you apportion your time is a different matter. Does that make sense? I got one of my guys right now on my team. I love this guy to death. He's beating himself up because he's going, I'm not getting the best, I'm not getting my people performing at their best. I'm like, it's because they're not ready. Does that make sense? He may look like the Alliance Aiden poster, but he's missing some of that because nothing's happening. Does that make sense? You can't make him make his phone calls. I mean, I guess you could. You could be like, make your phone calls, right? But that's not leadership. That's the hostage situation. Yeah, that's 10 to 15 in North Carolina at the best, right? And that's with a good lawyer, yeah. No, that is not public defender. Public defender, no. You say you can't make him dial, so stop. I'm just like, don't beat yourself up. He ain't ready yet for whatever reason. Does that mean he'll ever be ready? I don't know. If I could predict the future and make people do stuff they don't want to do, I wouldn't need to sell insurance. Does that make sense? Like, people say, tell me how to get people to do stuff they don't want to do. I'm like, if you ever figure it out, let me know too. All I know is to find easy people to work with and work with the easy people to work with. But giving people a chance, be generous with that. Now I'll see, and it's typically lower down on the levels, and it's like everybody that is going to join their team must meet this criterion. And all I can say is, you probably wouldn't have hired me 18 years ago when Andy gave me a chance. If that's the criterion that we're going to, you see what I'm saying? Andy gave me a chance 18 years ago. He didn't have to, but he gave me a chance. So be generous with giving people a chance. What's some other stuff we need to be generous with to create that connection? Believing in people. Believe in people. Be generous with your belief in people. It doesn't cost you anything. We say, but what if I believe in people and then they let me down? That was transactional belief you were extending. I was extending belief for what I could get back. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being generous with your belief in everybody. I promise you, when Holly and I speak at Family Reunion, I believe in everybody. I want you to win so bad. I wake up every day and I just go, oh my God, if I can do it. You know what I'm saying? I believe in you. I know you can. If you want to have that strong sense of connection, you got to be generous with your belief. Be generous with your belief in people. Truly believing in people doesn't require anything back. It's just a cool thing that happens when they do something with it. Does that make sense? What else we need to be generous with? Giving people the benefit of the doubt. I had a guy on my team one time. God, he'd pick Andy Albright apart. He'd be like, Andy's not perfect. I'm like, yeah, he pretty much says that every time he gives any talk. Like, you should check out the TWC. He says it pretty regularly. That you can tell him too, but I'm pretty sure he knows, right? Like you didn't find out something the rest of us didn't. You're a little cynic sleuth right there. I got to the bottom of that, An unhappy person with a penchant for finding others' imperfections, right? No statues to cynics. But Andy's not perfect. I'm like, yeah. But what if you extended the same grace to him that you no doubt have had extended to you?
That's right.
Does that make sense?
That's right.
I'm not perfect either. You're not perfect either. When we're generous with giving people the benefit of the doubt, what we're doing is we're extending grace to others that's already been given to us. And here's one thing I don't want to know. I'm pretty clear on what I don't know, and I'm also very clear on things I don't want to know. I don't want to know how much grace I've had to be extended over the years. You know what I'm saying? Oh my God, I wouldn't sleep for 6 months. Be like, oh my God. And then I did that. Oh. And they finally let that grudge against me go after 4 years. Oh my God. You were mad at me that whole time? They didn't think that was that funny? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. So I'm just going to be trying to be as generous as I can with the grace going outward. Does that make sense? Because I know I'm not going to run out. I've got plenty that's been given to me. I'm not going to run out. Does that make sense? And you're not going to run out either. You know what I'm saying? So be generous with that. Be generous with grace. Be generous with your affections. I talked about this last time I hosted TWC, how started this lovey-dovey stuff. I was not on board. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, well, culturally, you know, the Irish are not known for their emotions. Sigmund Freud said that it's the only people that you cannot psychoanalyze. You know what I'm saying? Like this would be hyper emotional for most Irish households. It's a good firm handshake from Grandpa. You know what I'm saying? So I was not on board with that. It took me a while, but you see when you're generous with your affection. And maybe this will help you, because this is part of the things I struggle with. What if I say, I love you to another dude, and he don't say it back? Literally was one of the things I worried about. Like, what if he does to me what I've done too many times to Paul Roberts? I love you. We don't express love to receive love, or it's not love. Does that make sense? We don't say I love you for us, we say it for them. So it doesn't matter if they say it back. Once I got that right in my mind, I was like, oh, okay, I love you, 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 I love you. But when people are generous with their love, that's the people that have high sense of connection in their life. Does that make sense? And people can't hear I love you enough. Why? Because they're not hearing it anywhere else. They're not hearing it. So you can't be, you're never going to give away too much love. It's just not possible. And then the last thing, be generous with grace when people let you down. Be generous with grace at those points. Just know this, if they're a good person, how do they feel in those moments when they've let you down? The same way you or I feel when we let others down. They're already beating themselves up enough. You don't build any further. In fact, you shut off the sense of connection when you're hard on them then. Don't get me wrong. I'm very hard when it comes to principles. But I try to be very generous with grace when others let me down. Makes sense? Yeah. So number 5, being generous. When it comes to connection, number 6, I'm not going to take time to write on the board. Mainly because I underestimated how much board I had. I knew I was in trouble when I got to 4. I was like, okay. Connected people are curious people. I love watching Andy work when he's talking. He'll just sit there and ask question after question after question after question. He's infinitely curious. That's why he's so connected to people. That's why we feel that connection to him. Here's why. Because curious people have a broad perspective. Look at your team. If your team only looks like you, we've got a narrow perspective. Does that make sense? If my whole team looks just like me, I've got a narrow perspective. Right. Curiosity helps me broaden my perspective. And curiosity is diametrically opposed to certainty. And when you think about broke, unhappy people, that's the most certain lot of people in this life. Mm-hmm. They're certain about everything. Uh-huh. That's why they're so angry all the time. You're different. Mm-hmm. Different's wrong. You know what I'm saying? My parents moved me from Fort Lauderdale, Florida to Silva, North Carolina. I was just like, man, good Lord. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, whew. Y'all know the world's big, right? So you can't be curious and certain. So let go of certainty to move towards curiosity. But when we let go of certainty to move towards curiosity, we open up to more connectivity. Does that make sense? Yeah. Narrow perspective, non-connective. The last two things I said rhymed, and that was on accident. That's awesome.
They will be proud.
So don't be a boring, certain person. Be curious. And watch Andy next time he's doing that, and he'll just ask question after question after question. And it's funny, when the first few times I saw him do it, I was like, what's he doing here? What is he doing with that? Asking questions, staying curious is going to keep you with a broader perspective and allow you to connect with people. Allow you to connect with a lot more people. I mean, think about this. There's people that connect with Andy that literally have nothing in common with Andy. Does that make sense? Like where they grew up, how they were raised, where they went to school. But because he's curious, he connects with them. So stay curious and we can stay connected. The world's, we're stocked already. We're full on certain boring people, right?
That's right.
And not like certain boring people. I mean certain boring people, right? We're full. We don't need any more, right? It's like, we'll keep your resume on file, and should any of the certain boring people leave, we'll, we need more curious people, asking questions, creating connections. Does that make sense? When you see angry people, watch their verbiage. There won't be any question marks in it. Does that make sense? The angry don't use question marks. The angry only use exclamation points. And so that's one thing I try to look at inside, because I want to stay connected, right? Am I using exclamation points, or am I using questions? If I'm using question marks, I'm being curious, I'm staying connected. And challenge yourself. Get curious about stuff that drives you crazy. What drives that behavior that's driving me insane? If you get curious, you won't get furious. And furious is terrible for your health. It's terrible for your relationships. It's terrible for your happiness. You won't find happy, furious people. You're like, so what's your key to fulfillment? Well, I try to wake up every day and find things to get angry about. I rant. I rave. I got to throw scorn in there, because I do like to dish out a fair bit of scorn. Sometimes I start with ranting and raving. But I got to tell you, when I get to raging, that's, oh my God, fills up my faith bucket, just. If we stay curious, we won't end up one of them. Does that make sense? All right. Number 7. I got to get through 2 more, then we got to get out of here. Because we only got 8 days till convention. We got a lot of stuff to do. For instance, I have to sneak past Eventures before they realize I haven't sent in my handouts for my Sunday breakout session. So if you see somebody tucking and rolling in the front lobby, you know I'm gone. They're right outside the door? I'm kidding. They're super done. I just got to go get them from my car. All right, number 7. This is simple. Okay, so we don't have to spend a lot of time on it. It's listening. And it follows curiosity, right? I try to put them in the order that they flow. We won't be curious if we're not humble, right? So we flow through all these. We won't listen unless we're curious. And then let me tell you something. The feeling of being heard. If you want someone to be tight with you, let them feel heard in your presence. The feeling of being heard is so rare in today's world that you could charge admission for it. You could set up a tent and say, come in here and feel heard. In fact, when most people go to therapy, that's all they're doing. Is they're feeling heard for the first time. When you can make people feel heard, and God, this is tough for some of us, especially the more you read books. Because you'll be 10 moves ahead. Like, I know exactly what's wrong with this person. It don't work like that. Correction doesn't create connection. Correction actually stifles connection. I mean, think about it. You know this from your life, right? Who have you felt the most connected to? The teachers that corrected you constantly? A lot of them retired after they had me. I was just like, that's me and Adam's big debate, like who would break who if he was my teacher. Yeah. Yeah. I want Catch for the belt in Vegas, right? If he was my teacher and I was his student, whom would break whom? There's a lot of retired teachers in Jackson County. But the ones that correct us all the time, we never felt connected. But the ones that listen to us, and you know what? You think back to times that someone really heard you out, what happens after that? You go, you know what? They knew what I needed to do, but they listened to me. And what do you feel? You feel nothing but love. You know, they listened to me anyways, even though I was being a crybaby, even though I was being a wimp. They listened to me, and that makes you love them more. All right, last one, encouragement. When you look at the great connectors in the Alliance, they are the great encouragers of the Alliance. They're the most encouraging people. That's why I say fight to get in that inner six. Fight to get in those situations at family reunion, on the extensions. You'll be around the most encouraging people you'll be around. Because people need encouragement. Know this. Know it for a fact. Everybody deals with doubt to some degree or another. And if they're brand new in the Alliance and they have just gone through getting downsized, they've gone through losing a home, or they're full of doubt. They need encouragement. Know this. People deal with shame. They deal with the stuff they did in the past that, God, they wish they could let go of. Right. They need encouragement. Yeah, they do. People deal with regret. Oh, yeah. Regret and shame. Mm-hmm. They need encouragement. Yeah, people deal with fear. Come on here, they're scared. They're scared that tomorrow might not be better than today. Uh-huh. They're scared that the best of their life may be in the past. Oh, yeah. They're scared. Okay, come on here. They need our encouragement. Mm-hmm. People deal with insecurities. Yeah, they do. You might think, no, people get to a stage, I still deal with insecurities. Before I do the TWC, I'm like, yeah. Yeah, spectacles, that's cool. Yeah. So, you see what I'm saying? People deal with insecurities. They need encouragement. Yeah. They might have a big smile on the outside, yeah, but they may be likely walking in that hot spot going, oh, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I did that. I hope these people like me. I don't really like this shirt. I don't really, you know what I'm saying? People need encouragement. People feel less than. They come to our hot spots and they feel less than. Why? Because people are making them feel less than. Why? Because they got doubters in their life. They got detractors in their life. They got depleters in their life. They need encouragement. If we're going to connect with them, we got to encourage first. Tell people you believe in them. You can't tell people you believe in them enough. You can't. Because here's what they need to do. They need to borrow your belief in them in place of genuine self-confidence until they build it through the Alliance. Right. They're going to have to borrow that belief. You saying, I believe in you, I love you, I know you can do it. They need that. And when you look at the best connectors in the Alliance, that they lend belief to people who lack authentic self-esteem. That's right. Tell them you believe in them. Tell them you can do it. And remember, with all these things, it's not just doing it today, right? It's a decision we got to make every single day. We got to wake up tomorrow and decide that we're going to work on all these 8 gates, keep them open as full as possible. Because here's what I know. I know the Alliance is a special place. I know with you as the next hero of the Alliance, it becomes an even more special place. I know that in 8 days, we're all going to roll in here, and it's going to be awesome. But let me tell you something in closing. The next 8 days, the next 8 days are everything. The next 8 days decide what happens the rest of the year. The momentum we come into this family reunion with, that's what determines what happens the rest of the year. Whatever we do over the next 8 days, it's critical. The next 8 days, let's go out and let's connect more than we've ever connected. The next 8 days, let's go out and put in a work ethic like we've never put in before. The next 8 days, let's do 8 things we know we should have been doing before. The next 8 days, let's pour it on. Because here's what I know. What you know, Bob? I know the rest of the year is worried about what's going to happen in Burlington. Oh, the rest of the year is scared to death. It knows, oh my God, we get all these people in Burlington. They're going to come out after us on Sunday. And 2020 is trying to get off the calendar because it knows what we're about to do to it, guys. We love you. Let's go out and get it.